So good morning and welcome everyone to the P2P Requisitions virtual instructor-led training. I am so happy that you all are joining us today, and hopefully you will gain some knowledge that maybe you don't have before this particular training on P2P requisitions. Remember also that there are 4 other VILTs that you can sign up for. Just depends on what your learning pathway is and which ones you'll be required to take as part of that pathway. So first of all, a little bit about me, your trainer. My name is Sarah Lewis. I am the training lead and the P2P lead for our awesome eVA team. I'm happy to be doing some of this training along with my other fellow DPS trainers. I think that this is something that's important to allow everybody to have an interactive training experience, to see a demo, ask questions, and really feel a little bit more confident in the system. So here are some Zoom reminders for today. We are utilizing the Zoom platform, so we want to make sure that we know 2 things to remember. First is the chat box, and the second is the Q&A box. So the chat feature, you use this for anything except questions. So you want to say good morning, you just want to say, hey, wow, this was a great training. That is where you should put those comments. Anything that is a question, please put it in the question and answer box. Similar to how we do it for our bug meetings, it's the same type of layout. Anything but except for questions in the chat, questions in the Q&A. I say this because I want to make sure that we get all of your questions answered, and I cannot guarantee that if you put a question in the chat that it will be answered. However, since we can easily see who and what the questions are in the Q&A, I can make sure that anything that is put in there is answered, and if it can't be answered, we'll let you know and absolutely get back to you about the answer to your question. But just a little reminder for that, because I know that sometimes it can be confusing and you're in chat and you put a question in there, but please remember any questions need to go in that Q&A feature. So I'm going to start today with a poll, and which of these describes your role? Are you a requisitioner? Are you a requisition approver? Are you an admin? And it might be none of these, which is also fine. I probably should have added something that says other, but I'm going to oops, I went ahead. I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Just need my little controls to come up, and there we are. We are going to launch this first one. Now, I know this is a mock training, so sometimes, especially right now, you can pretend to be one of them, but I think most of us have done something in some type of capacity, whether it be a requisitioner, a requisition approver, or an admin. The reason we're doing this is it really lets me see who we're talking to today so that I can make sure the topics that we cover hit on each one of these roles and sometimes even outside of it. So we have 100%, and I'm going to share the results, which is great. It means everybody is on and paying attention. So we have about a little over half of you are requisitioners, and then the next one is admin, and then finally we have some requisition approvers. You're all in the right place. Hopefully everything we go over today will be helpful to you and will apply as you get comfortable in the new eVA platform. So before we go on, I do have another poll for you. It's the one you kept seeing popping up as I was trying to get my controls to come up. And it's, what's your confidence level on this topic? Are you super confident? Have you been in the UAT environment? Have you looked at all of the training? Do you feel confident with being able to utilize that training and put it to the test? Are you kind of medium? I'm not really sure. Or are you thinking, I have no confidence in this at all? And that is totally okay. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this next poll, and let's see where everybody is. Okay. Want to wait a little bit more to get over around the 75% participated mark. If we can get up to 100%, that would be fantastic as well. But I know that everybody has a lot of different things they're working on. Excellent. We got to 100. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results with everyone. So awesome that some of you had that high confidence level. That is fantastic. I envy you. I am probably always going to put myself at a medium confidence level. And some of you are at a low, and that is totally fine as well. We're all going to start out on these different levels. And what I'm hoping is that by the end of the session, you'll feel a lot more confident in this requisitions topic, and you'll feel comfortable using the new platform to show off your skills. So there's no right or wrong answer, just trying to test and see how you're all feeling at the beginning so that we can then do another check-in at the end after we've done all of the great learning that we're going to do today. So lastly, I don't have a poll question for you, but what I do have is, what do you hope to take away from this session? And we are going to utilize the chat feature for this. I kind of want to see what your expectations are and make sure that I can meet those expectations. And if I can't, what can I do to get you answers to your questions or meet expectations? So feel free to throw it in the chat. What do you hope to take away from today's session? Even one-word responses are completely fine. I just want to see what you all want to learn today. Awesome. Better knowledge of the tool. Absolutely. Better understanding. Yep, that better knowledge, better understanding, feeling more confident. Yep, Felicia, you're in my head. You brought up the confidence, flow, and process, and everybody's saying, hey, people have already said what I was going to say. All good things, and I think we'll be able to meet or exceed your expectations in a lot of these areas. And if I don't, we can absolutely talk after, and I can figure out what you're looking for and see how I can deliver on those expectations about what you want to take away from the session. So thank you. I promise for right now, that is the last of our interactive questions. So let's move on. I want to talk about a brief session agenda for today. We're going to do a quick recap of your self-paced assets that you have taken as part of your learning pathway in the learning management system that is hosted by the Virginia Institute of Procurement, who have been an awesome partner in this process. Then we're also going to do a follow-along demo. So I will be sharing my screen during that time, and you'll be able to see exactly how to go in, create a requisition. We're going to take a look at how to copy one, where to put attachments, where to put comments, all of those good things. Then we're going to leave a lot of time for Q&A because I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have. And then finally, at the end, we'll talk about some next steps as a part of this training, because training is not going away, and we absolutely have some good assets that are outside of that learning pathway that might be helpful to you, like some quick reference guides, which are coming. So brief session today, but hopefully you will find it helpful. So quick recap, we're going to talk about the P2P requisition process, which was discussed in multiple assets in your requisitioner or requisitioner approver pathways. Talk about creating a requisition, catalog versus non-catalog items, and copying a requisition. If you have joined any of the other virtual instructor-led training sessions, especially the catalog, there might be some things that we are going over again, and that's okay. It's because all these modules talk to each other. There are some items that are going to overlap, so just consider it some extra knowledge that you are gaining, and that extra repetitive nature of some of this will really help you understand how to utilize the system to the best of your ability. So let's talk about the P2P requisition process. So it's very similar to how it is today. It's just going to look a little different because we're in a new platform. So whether that's browsing the catalog to create a requisition or copying a requisition, the third option here is also just to create a requisition from scratch, which we will go over. Then adding line items to the requisition, whether that be by adding something in a catalog or adding a non-catalog item, both are still options that can be utilized. Also adding comments or attachments as required, and who can see those comments and attachments and where should they go. We will talk about that as well, because there are some specific nuances in this new platform with regards to those comments and attachments. So we will go over that as well. Submitting the requisition for approval for any of the requisitioners that we have on here. This is probably the part that you like the most. You're like, I've done all my work, I'm going to submit it. And then for our approvers, this is where you step in and we'll be approving those requisitions. And then also the great thing is we have the ability to amend or cancel requisitions as needed. In the order virtual instructor led training, we'll go over amending, or as we all know it mostly as change orders. We will go into that process further, but this is just a recap of a high level P2P process. So creating a requisition, you can see here I have the screen up for creating a requisition from scratch in the new platform. I will be showing you this live as well, but I did want to point out that similar to what was discussed in your self-paced training, you can see that there is procurement and shop, and they're right next to each other, which is great because you can go to either one of those places to start a requisition, whether it be creating it from scratch, creating it by searching in a catalog and adding items that way, or even by going to procurement and looking at previous requisitions you've created and copying those. So catalog versus non-catalog. Again, if you have taken the catalog VILT session, some of this may be a repeat. So you can sit back and relax for this part. And since it's a little bit of additional content here for you. So catalogs can be built in, punch out, or associated with a specific contract. That being said, excuse me, I am admitting somebody into the room. That being said, catalogs can include contract and non-contract items. So I talked about this a little bit in our catalog VILT session, that just because something's in a catalog doesn't mean that it's on contract and doesn't mean that it's not on contract. And I'll talk about how to filter those and how to find that out. But you can have catalogs that are created from a specific contract. So just know catalogs can include those contract and non-contract items. Then we have the non-catalog items. So these are any items that are not in one of the catalogs, whether it be a regular catalog that's built into eVA or those punch out catalogs that punch out to the supplier website. So we'll talk about some ways to create those non-catalog items. It's very similar to how we do it today in the current platform. Again, it just looks different. Functionality is the same. The way you go about it might be a little bit different. So copying a requisition. I'll show you this also in the live environment, but just wanted to bring it to your attention in this screenshot, that you can access any requisition and then under the other actions drop down, you'll see the option to duplicate. Duplicate meaning also copy, that's where you go to copy the requisition. The one thing I do want to say here is that not all of the fields will be copied over. So pay attention to that. I believe that some of them that will not copy over are the PO category, the procurement transaction type. And I believe that there is one other one that might not have copied over, but I just want to call everybody's attention to that. It's an important aspect to pay attention to, because I don't want you to think you can just copy a requisition and hit submit. It will come back with some errors that say, hey, I need you to fill in these required fields before you submit the requisition. So before, I think that our demo is next, and it is. So where would you go to start a requisition from this page before I go into the live demo? There I am clicking those again. Feel free to put it in the chat. I'm going to bring up my chat so I can see. There are two answers. There you go. Somebody already got it. Good job, Jan. Shop or procurement. There are two places that you can go, and we're going to take a look at those two separate places and see exactly how to go about creating a requisition both ways. And we'll also go over duplicating a requisition. So let's go over to our demo. So this is going to be a live follow along demo, and in true form to my sweet tooth, I've decided to make the demo looking for some baked goods, and we need to create a new requisition. So we're going to browse the catalog to add items. And then we're also going to look at adding those comments and attachments and submitting the requisition for approval. Then after we've done all that, I'm going to show you how to copy a previous requisition. So without any further ado, I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to start sharing my other screen. Okay. Not sure if I picked the right one, but I think I did now. Okay. And then just give me a thumbs up or let me know if you are seeing my eVA screen. Yes, no, maybe so. Hopefully you're not seeing the live follow along demo.
Yeah,
Yep,
we're seeing it.
You're seeing the welcome to eVA and the new platform? Awesome.
Yes.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Thank you all. Okay, so I'm going to be looking over here a little bit because it's on my other screen. So I won't be talking to you directly. So apologies for being a little bit rude with that. But let's actually first, we're going to go to shop and we're going to go to search for products. And this will take you to that catalog section in the new platform. And you can see that once you first land here, it's kind of divided into sections with punch out, contracts, catalogs, and then we do have a mandatory source section at the top. Please keep in mind that this is the UAT environment. It's not going to be perfect. So the result of not being able to see anything under mandatory source is the result of that. So we will do our best with what we have. As you all know, UAT can sometimes be a little bit wonky, and that's okay. You can see I've already started searching for cake. So I'm going to actually reset my search parameters just so we can all start fresh. So now that everything has been reset, I am going to type in cake because I think that's what my boss wants me to purchase. I'm going to see what comes back as far as search results go. And before we do that, I also want to call your attention. If you scroll all the way to the right, you'll be able to see the display options, and it has a list view, which we're in now, but you can also do a grid view. Just depends on what your preference is. The search results are the same. It's just how they're displayed. So I'm going to switch back to my list view, but did just want to show you that. And you can see that there are cakes on here. There's an ice cream cake, cupcakes, there's decorated sugar cookies. Let's say though that I want to narrow this down to see what is on contract. So if you saw me over here, click this little funnel, that is where you can filter out the search results to find exactly what you're looking for. So I'm going to use this little filter, and we do discuss that a little bit more on the catalogs VILT, so feel free to sign up for that if you have not already. So from the drop down, I am going to select, I believe it is optional statewide contract that those cookies are on. And you can see that, yes, that is what comes up. And you can see here that there's the contract that it is a part of, and that is the one I want to use. I want to purchase something that is on the contract that I'm looking for. So we need 30 cookies for our 30 staff members. Again, it's totally made up when we are in the UAT environment. So as much as I would love to purchase cookies for all of us, we are going to use this as an example. So you can see that I did the drop down for the quantity, but you can also type in there as well. If you don't want to scroll down, if you needed 100 cookies, you might not want to scroll that far, and that's completely okay. And then right from here, I can click add to cart. And what that will do is add those 30 cookies to the cart, and you can see that it's already created a requisition for me. I don't want to add anything more at this time, so I am going to click checkout. And this will be really neat because it takes you into the requisition that the system has created. And you can see that my organization is already filled out. I do believe that your PO category and also your procurement transaction type will not be pre-populated like it is here. I'm guessing that maybe that happened as a result of me trying this earlier today. So just know that these two fields that are required will not necessarily be pre-populated. Your organization will be, and most likely your ship to and your bill to will be as well. So let's pretend that it did not do what it did and pre-populate those for me. You can see that it is showing in red that, hey, Sarah, remember that you need to add your PO category. So I'm going to choose routine. And then for my procurement transaction type, I need to add that as well. And I'm going to do supplies non-technology. Again, we're just using this as an example. And I thought cookies or baked goods might be a good way. And I know I stand between you and lunch, so hopefully it's not too much of a temptation there. But if you scroll down, you can see those cookies that I added, and there are 30. And it looks like I'm actually getting 30 dozen, so awesome. 360 cookies. So that's fantastic. I'm absolutely excited. So let's go into the line item and take a look at the information that is in there. And we'll talk a little bit more about ways to add not only comments and attachments here, but also some additional items. So if you scroll down, you can see at the top is everything that has already been brought over from that catalog that's built into eVA, including the product type, the short description, the quantity I put in. It brings over the commodity code as well. It defaults a delivery date, so that can be changed as well. And then it also defaults the supplier. Then you can go down and do some additional internal details. So maybe there's an external contract number that you want to include, which you absolutely can do. There's also a comment section. Now, the cool thing about this is not only does it say supplier visible additional information, but if you scroll over this little I, it says this comment will be visible to the supplier on the purchase order. So it lets you know, don't put anything there that you don't want the supplier to see, because they'll see anything that is there. Now, right now, this is not a field that I can type in, but I have been told that at Go Live, you will be able to. So these are those internal comments that you don't want whoever is looking at this as the supplier to see. Then if you scroll down, there's also an allocation section. I'm only going to go over this briefly because some folks don't need to use this, but this is where you can add that allocation information. It does default the fiscal year for you. And then you can fill in all the accounting codes that are required for your agency if they are required. And then also I want to talk about these buttons at the top, save and close. Little bit different than what we have today. So saving means that you want to save all the information you've put in there if you've added anything or attached any documents, and then you still want to stay on that page. So I highly recommend saving as many times as you like, so you can make sure that anything you added is included on that line item. Save and close is I've added everything I need to, and I am going to click the save and close button. So there we go. And it's just gonna think for a second. Thinks it's Monday, so it's thinking a little bit longer. Now also, since we've talked about the line item, let's now talk about the header comment, which will also still be visible to the suppliers. And in case you forget, there's that helpful tooltip again. This comment is visible to the suppliers. Then, in addition to the allocations, which will be listed here, and remember those were determined on the line items, we also have attachments. So this is where you can add an attachment that will stay internal to your organization. So the vendor won't see this. So if you think about it, anything on the header with regards to attachments will be internal. We had originally had the comments at the header level also be internal, but we did have some end users that brought up some great business cases to make sure that that is also available to view by the supplier. So remember, anything that you don't want, you're going to put in those internal comment section, which will be available to you at go live. But let me just put a comment in here, test comment for supplier A. And the way you make sure that that is picked up is there's that save button. We're not saving and closing here. We are just clicking save. And you can see that that has been saved there. The other thing I want to show you that I neglected to before is let's go into this editing line item and see where we can add attachments. So these attachments are going to be visible to the supplier, and you can easily just do a new document, and it allows you to browse your computer wherever the document is. You do have the option to do an internal attachment, but I would highly recommend doing that at the header level. And then you also have the option to do a supplier document. It's my understanding that both of those right now are still visible to the supplier. So if you want something to stay internal, keep it on the header level for now. So I did just want to show you that portion, and I'm going to save and close. I know I didn't add anything, but we just want to make sure that we are saving our work as we go along. So I have everything added. I've added the allocations that I need to. And what's cool about this is if I click save, it's going to tell me if I missed anything. I didn't, but if I did, here is where it would show up in your alerts and messages. So I'm in here as a generic user, so I can show you what you're going to see. But you can see that there's alerts and messages that say, hey, you're missing approvers for requisition rules. It's just because of the way this particular user is set up. But just know that anything with an alert will show up in that particular area. But everything is good to go. I have my ship to, I have my bill to, I have everything in the header filled out. I have my line item that's been added. I don't have any attachments or comments that I need to add other than the one that I added as a test. And then I can click the green submit for approval button. And you will see that it is now going to go through the approvals, which we can absolutely take a look at the workflow. And it's going to generate any approvers. And you can kind of see down here who those approvers are going to be. Here's where you can see who the previous ones are, and even a mail history of who's been sent what, since these approvers will be notified in their email box in an email message that they have something that they need to approve. Then we can go back up to the purchase requisition. And I do want to show you too where the P cards are. We've already submitted this, but just to show you that there is this left navigation. This is big in the new platform. There's a collapsible left navigation that you can access, whether it be for those filtering the results or for seeing the different parts of this particular requisition. So we went over the catalog, how to create one from a catalog. Let's go over how to create one from scratch. Let's say you already know that what you're looking for isn't in the catalog and you're going to need to create non-catalog items. So we're going to go to procurement instead of shop, and we're going to go to create requisition under browse requisitions. So once we go there, the screen should look very similar. It just doesn't have as much filled out for us. So we are going to pretend that this organization has already been filled out for us, but I'm just going to change it. Basically, this user has access to 2 different organizations that they can purchase from. We have some entities that are able to do that. So, but for most of you, it will default to your organization. PO category, I'm going to say it's routine. And then we're going to go down to supplies, non-technology. So you'll see here that you scroll down, you're like, okay, well, where do I put the line items? You'll see the save button. Remember, we're clicking save, and that opens up some new options for you. So as soon as you click save, and I don't have any errors, except for please add at least 1 line item. So you can go down to the items and services section and click on add line. And let's just say for a short description, these are actually custom cupcakes. So I am not able to order them through the catalog, and I got a quote from I got a quote from a vendor we're already on contract with. Let's go with that. I know that our awesome account executives and our statewide sourcing and contracting officers are out there screaming like, remember, like, do it like you're doing a procurement. So let's say absolutely they're already on contract with us. So then we can go here and pick the commodity. Here's a really cool thing that you can start typing in cake. You have cakes, cookies, and pastries, and all the other different search results that contain that word cake. So I think that's neat that you can start typing and it starts auto-populating it for you. You can put a delivery date in there. Then you can also, here's where you add the supplier. So let's see if I think that it is, sure. Tasty treats and cakes, fantastic. So once I add that, it'll add the supplier information. My ship to is already defaulted. I want to do 50 custom cupcakes, and I have my quote, which we will attach. And let's say $15 seems like a lot. We'll do $7.50. How about that? And then we can scroll down and you can add comments. Remember, supplier visible comment, and we can say, this order should reflect specs on the attachment. And then we can add some additional details. We are going to add an attachment here, and it's not going to actually be the quote, but we will do, just for purposes of making sure that I do a little bit of a demo, we'll just add our asset changes document there and pretend that it's a quote for those particular cupcakes. And then I want to click Save and Close, and it will take me back to those line item details. And then you're probably thinking, okay, Sarah, where's the allocation that I need to enter? Well, if you click Save, you'll then scroll down and you can see that the allocation section then shows up and allows you to input it. So when you're adding them from a catalog, any items from a catalog, you can see that it will automatically display those allocations. Whereas when you're adding a non-catalog item, it needs you to save that particular line before you can add those allocation information. That is mentioned in the self-paced training, but I just wanted to remind you here as well. So we're going to click Save and Close. I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions. So looks like I have everything ready to go. I'm going to save and just make sure that I'm not getting any blocking errors, and I'm not non-blocking errors. There you can see that. And then I'm going to click Submit for approval. Again, this is the UAT environment. Don't be concerned or wondering where your cupcakes went. This is just for demonstration purposes only. So lastly, I do want to show you how to copy a requisition. So if we go back up to procurement and we go to browse requisitions, it will bring up a list. This user doesn't have a lot. You can see that these two are in progress, meaning that they haven't been ordered yet, meaning they haven't gone through that approval flow. But let's click on this one and see where we could duplicate or copy that requisition. Again, it's under other actions, and all you have to do is click duplicate. The system will say, are you sure you want to duplicate this? And you can say, okay. And you can see that a lot of stuff is carried forward, for you already, and there are some things that you won't have to fill in. Again, I am pretty sure that this PO category and transaction type will not be pre-populated as it's showing right now. You will have to put some information there, and then change allocations if you need to, quantity if you need to, a particular attachment if you need to. That can all be done here. but I did want to show you that. So I am going to stop sharing and we're going to switch back to our presentation. And let's talk about questions. You can either write them in the chat or you can absolutely unmute yourself since this is a mock training. I'm going to stop sharing. So in case anybody wants to ask a question, I can see you and see the chat if there is anything. What questions can I answer? Remember, we are in the recorded portions, just make sure that it is applicable to what we just went over.
Can you show how to add the P card info before you hit submit?
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So here's where you can see on the left. So I haven't submitted this one for approval, so it's a great one to use. And you see the purchase requisition workflow and then P card. P card, you can then select your applicable P card in the drop down. This user has not added one, but if they had, you would be able to see it there and select it. And then you would want to make sure that you click save here as well to make sure that that P card is applied to that particular transaction. Good question.
Sarah, can we see where you can acknowledge that the attachment was attached?
Sure. Let's see. Should probably just keep my screen up so we can see it. And Terry, do you want to see it at the header level or do you want to see it on the line item level?
Whoops, just where someone could validate that it was there.
That it has been added.
Right, because you added one.
Sure. Let's add one. So when they ask you to add a document in here, I kind of breezed over this, but you do have to add a title of some kind. So let's just say that this is a quote. The status is already in approved because you're adding this to a requisition. There are some other parts of the system where this won't default to approved, such as in a solicitation where somebody might need to look at what you've attached there. But for requisitions, it will automatically default to approved. So you can see that it is attaching it. And it is attached there, and then I'm going to save it just to make sure it's still there, and I'm going to click save and close, and then it should now be reflected in the attachment section. And it is. There is that quote.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. What other questions do we have?
Can you show us how to change the ship to?
Sure.
And or the bill to?
Sure, not a problem. You guys are asking really good questions. It is appreciated. So I'm on the header level of the requisition. And if you scroll to the right, you can see the ship to and the bill to. And you can make any of those changes by clicking see all if you want to see the entire list. And you can kind of start typing. These will be only those that you can access within your organization. So you can see here that this user only has 5. So they can pick a different one. And let's say they want to change the bill to, I want to see all the bill tos because I forget if it's one of the ones in the drop down. It was, but I'm going to change that. And then I'm going to make sure that I save that information since we have changed it. And there it is reflected. Any other questions? I know you might have questions after the fact, which is totally fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my presentation again.
Sarah, sorry, one more.
Sure.
If you change something and and try and move off the requisition somehow another way? Does it ask you, hey, do you want to save that? Does it give you a message?
In some cases it will, and in some cases it won't. In a
Okay.
lot of cases on the requisition, it won't. So that's why I always say, make sure that you're saving, because if you're constantly saving after every change you make, it'll always be reflected.
Okay.
So that's
Thanks.
just a good rule of thumb in the new platform.
Okay. Thanks.
Not a problem. Okay, we'll go into our final poll question here. And I kind of want to see how's everybody doing now that we went through some demos and talked about some of the information that you went over in your self-paced training. So let's see, how are you feeling now? Are you feeling confident? You feel like you still need to practice? Do you still need to review resources? Any of these are the correct response. We're all going to be at different levels and different confidence levels, but if some of you feel a little bit more confident after this, it means that we are successful. So I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results. You can see a lot of you are feeling confident. Most of you feel like you need practice. I always feel like I need to practice, so that is understandable. But I'm glad to see that folks aren't like, wow, I need to review the resources again. But if you did, that's fine too. That's why they're there. And that's why training is not going away, and why we have the quick reference guides coming that will be a complement to the training as a whole. So I am going to close out this mock training session by saying additional next steps. We do have additional training materials on the LMS, and then also the training website. And don't forget to go to the transition newsroom. There's a wealth of good information out there. Kim Brewer's fantastic about making sure the latest and greatest is there. So please feel free to check that out as well. And I will end today with just saying thank you to everybody who attended. I hope that your expectations were met and that you feel a little bit more confident in the system with regards to requisitions. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm also going to stop recording.